mean, it's been all the way back since around like Christmas time. They've been one of the best teams in the league, just from a, even net efficiency standpoint. The offense has been great. I mean, a lot of it comes back to health. They have their guys available. That health has been a major issue the last few years. Brandon Miller missed huge chunks of time. Grant Williams, LaMelo Ball has missed a bunch of time. Mark Williams, when he was is no longer with the team. He's on the Phoenix Suns now, but he missed a good chunk of time the last couple of years. So there was a lot. They had to use, I think, like 45, 46 starting lineups last year, almost 30 different players. So obviously having your guys, and then not only having your guys, but your continuity and the chemistry and being able to kind of build that from game to game to game, I think is obviously very
Hi, everyone. Tim Kitzer with you, the voice of NBA Jam. From top journalists and authors to rising influencers and insiders, Hoopsology brings you the voices driving basketball forward. With elite guests and sharp analysis, Matt, Justin, and Alan keep you plugged into everything hoops. From downtown, boom shakalaka.
Great timing as we're recording this podcast. It is February 10th. Just coming off a huge matchup between the Hornets and Detroit Pistons. The Hornets fell to the Pistons 110-104, but a very exciting game. A lot happened in that game. Before we get into just what transpired with the brawl, the ejection of the coach, and then just the outcome, can you explain just the environment of this game you witnessed just between the Pistons and the Hornets? Just because I feel like it's almost like a changing of the guard in terms of kind of the top of the Eastern Conference. I realize that the Hornets are still trying to battle towards being 500, but I've talked to a couple of journalists and they said that the Hornets are a team to watch within the Eastern Conference. So I just kind of want to get your thoughts in terms of just the environment of just playing the Pistons at home with that crowd.
Yeah, definitely a very energetic, very fired up crowd that's gotten, very heavily or progressively heavily invested in the team's recent success. Had a 9-game winning streak going into it. It's just, with anything, when a team is playing well, it kind of galvanizes the fan base and the local community. And the Hornets have been on the road for a good chunk of this kind of January to early February. I think they played 11 road games in January, which I think was most in the NBA. So they haven't had a whole lot of home games. So it kind of feels like when people do have the chance to go out and see them lately, they've been really making an effort to do so. And kind of about 5-6 minutes into the game, when you start to see the fans or the seats fully full with what they're going to be, it's a little bit of, okay, this is a little bit more people, a little bit more fired up. There's a little bit more juice in this crowd than a mid-February Hornets game that we've seen the last few years. So crowd was super into it. I think the competitive play on both sides brought out a really high intensity game. Obviously, we saw the tensions boil over a little bit or a lot maybe in that third quarter, which, we know sometimes happens in professional sports or in any sports, but it was a great environment. And I think with Detroit particularly, and I agree with you, it's not necessarily a changing of the guard yet. I wouldn't go so far, but when the Hornets played Detroit the first time back in Detroit in December, it was probably one of the worst performances of the season. They shot a season low, really just kind of got knocked around pretty good. And ever since that game, that maybe, you kind of look back and maybe it was a little bit of a turning point. And it's a measuring stick type of game if you want to be in the playoffs and if you want to be playing meaningful games into late March and April and May. These are the kind of games that you're going to have to go through. These are the teams you're going to have to beat. So from that standpoint, it was awesome. Obviously, you don't want to see a situation arise like what happened in the third quarter, but it happens sometimes. And I think it's mostly a byproduct of the physicality and the competitiveness and sort of the juice and energy that game had for really the entire game. Even after the fight went down, it was still pretty intense, the final quarter and a half.
Can you walk our audience through that tussle that took place? Usually with a lot of altercations, it's funny because I was watching the ABA documentary and they were going over how fights happen all the time. Like it was totally opposite. Like you're ejected for not fighting, and now with the NBA, it's like you get off the bench, you're automatically ejected. So the culture has totally changed. But this seemed pretty heated in terms of this confrontation. Can you just walk our audience through that? What you witnessed there live?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of just after the game, I'm kind of, obviously mentioned it in the post-game writing, and it was the biggest topic of conversation in the post-game availability. I didn't do a full kind of, frame by frame dissection of who's guilty. I think it's seeing kind of the fan bases go back and forth a little bit. Obviously the Detroit fan base is going to be defending the Pistons guys and vice versa. So, I think I just think Moussa Diabate and Jalen Duren are two of the, I think in my opinion, two of the hardest playing players in the NBA, play the same position, and had just kind of been going at it the whole game, and not in a bad way, just in a very competitive, knocking each other, and just, competitiveness. That's it. And it just, sometimes when it's like the two, big horn sheep kind of, hitting antlers over and over and over again. At some point, there's going to be a little bit of a tipping point. I think that's what happened. And, again, it just kind of escalated, and some other players got involved, obviously. And thankfully, it didn't get into the stands or anything like that. But certainly one of the craziest events I've witnessed in person. But, a credit to everybody for kind of getting the situation under control as quick as they could. And sometimes when something like that happens, it just, the whole game can become a complete, the rest of the game afterwards can come just completely messy and physical. And two teams they kind of, okay, those guys are gone. And they played a really high intensity basketball game for the final, I think it was 19 minutes. Hornets got it to within 4 with, I think, about a minute left, had a couple good looks at a 3. Couldn't knock it down. Tobias Harris had a turnaround jumper at the other end to ice it. So that part I was really impressed with, and more so just being on the Hornets side of it, to be able to put that situation kind of in the rearview mirror, compose themselves with all the emotions flying, and really give themselves a chance to win this in down the stretch against a very, very tough, physical, and talented Pistons team.
So with Diabate, I was listening to the announcers. They said it was highly unusual to see him that emotional. They've never seen him like that. I realized it was a physical confrontation, but is he known to be the pretty just calm guy in terms of just being level-headed? And was that extremely unusual just to see him get emotional? I mean, it took several people to hold him back. I mean, I don't think he was calm-headed to the locker room. So I'm just curious, from your vantage point, can you just elaborate on that in terms of kind of his temperament and why the situation seems so unusual?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's just kind of one of those guys. He's very competitive. He's, maybe off the court, he's mild-mannered a little bit. And then, just like all, great players, as soon as you kind of step onto the court, there's a little bit of you flip the switch a little bit. And sometimes emotions you'll get high, and it comes again with competitiveness and the physicality, and the Hornets too, wanting to prove themselves on, they knew a lot of the NBA was going to be watching this game. It's two of the hottest teams in the East, or really in the league right now. You knew there was going to be a spotlight on this game. And, given how the first matchup went down too, you want to be able to play better than you did up in Detroit back in December. And, I don't think it was, I think it's just one of those things. It's just a competitive thing, and it just kind of boiled over. I wouldn't, haven't seen anything like that. And it's not necessarily, I wouldn't put it like a character thing. I don't think that's really fair. It's a competitive guy that just, got onto the court and, was just playing another big time competitor, and just kind of, just situation kind of got away from him.
Yeah. In regards to their loss to the Pistons, that concluded the Hornets' winning streak. But like you said, they're one of the hottest teams within the NBA. What do you attribute that to? Just in terms of that winning streak, and do you think it's indicative of what they can do towards the second half of the season, making a push towards the playoffs? You think?
Yeah, although I would say the turning point, it wasn't even just the 9-game winning streak. I mean, it's been all the way back since around like Christmas time. They've been one of the best teams in the league, just from a even net efficiency standpoint. The offense has been great. I mean, a lot of it comes back to health. They have their guys available. That health has been a major issue the last few years. Brandon Miller missed huge chunks of time. Grant Williams, LaMelo Ball has missed a bunch of time. Mark Williams, when he was is no longer with the team. He's on the Phoenix Suns now, but he missed a good chunk of time the last couple of years. So there was a lot. They had to use, I think, like 45, 46 starting lineups last year, almost 30 different players. So obviously having your guys, and then not only having your guys, but your continuity and the chemistry and being able to kind of build that from game to game to game, I think is obviously very helpful. I think the rookie play of Con Knipple has been tremendous. I think he's right there with Cooper Flagg for Rookie of the Year. In just personal opinion, I think he's ahead of him because I'm, getting to watch what he's doing every single night. I think last night it kind of got overshadowed. He was like the fourth fastest rookie to hit 1,000 points, and I think he's already fifth on the rookie single season 3-point leaderboard. It needs about like 29 or so to break the record, or 30, with 30 something games to go. So that one's coming up quick. So, it's just an absolute home run draft pick. Ryan Kolkbrenner too. Sion James has been great. Liam McNeely has showed flashes. Tijan Salon has made a bit of a jump as well. So, and having guys like Grant Williams and Josh Greenback have been great too. Not necessarily guys that are going to score 25 points a night, but knocking down open threes, being physical, deflections, filling in the gaps a little bit. I just think the roster is really balanced right now. They've got health, and they've got continuity, and they've got chemistry, and they just complement each other really well at the moment.
So you mentioned Knipple. Can you talk about what he brings to the Hornets? I just remember seeing a post earlier this season. I forgot where they're located, but I think the team was wondering where to eat, and so the whole team went to his house. It was like a viral moment. I think you rarely see that in terms of like team continuity. And I just think he brings a different flavor to that team that we've seen from the Hornets in recent years. Can you just talk about when he, first, walked into the practice facility, his first game and his evolution, and why you think he's taken to just the pro level so quickly, you think?
Yeah, I think that was up so when they played their first game in Milwaukee back in, I think that was like mid-November, maybe kind of around Thanksgiving. Con being a Milwaukee native, I think it wasn't on a back-to-back. They did play a back-to-back in Milwaukee the last time they were there, but I think it was just the family decided to, big family. I think he's one of five boys, and I think the family's used to having these big, dinner hangouts and teams coming over, and I'm sure it was nothing new maybe a little new for Con's mom, but just being an NBA team. But it was a really cool moment to kind of see that. And I think I wasn't in attendance for the game, but seeing some of the photos, and like he's going to have like 2,000 something people here from all the different teams he's played for and high schools. It's like, whoa, that is a lot of people to come out and support you for your very first NBA game in your home city. So slowly turning some of those Bucks faithful into Hornets, hopefully. But in terms of the player, when we saw him I think what impressed me most about, he was, I wouldn't say a glue guy. He was, better than a glue guy. He's a high complimentary guy, but you could see that all the different ways he could impact the game at Duke. Obviously, Cooper Flagg and Kaman Malawach and Sion James and Tyrese Proctor. Some of those guys were going to have a little bit higher usage, but the way he was able to, pass and just do the little things that, impact winning. Sometimes I think it's really hard, especially for a guy coming in to a program like Duke, where you're the big fish in the small pond, and then you go to a place like Duke and there's three top 10 picks and another guy that goes in the second round in the starting, or two other guys that go in the second round in the starting lineup. It's hard to sort of maybe find your niche a little bit, and he just fit in seamlessly there, and the seamlessness has carried over to the NBA. And he's not really a complimentary piece now as he is a go-to scorer. The 3-point shooting has been outstanding. I think he's like second or third now in the NBA in total threes, and shooting like, I think he might be 15th in percentage of like 42%. And you saw a little bit of the flashes that, he had a little bit of a slow start at Summer League, and, which can be kind of messy, but you start to kind of see him knock down shots and sort of the patience he plays with. And it's like, you have to keep reminding yourself that, okay, this is a rookie. This is not normal for it. This looks like a 10-year vet. So even on nights where he's, not shooting particularly well, or not even maybe not getting a lot of shots because the other team has kind of prioritized him on the scouting board, he's making passes. I think he's a really underrated rebounder. He's competitive. And I think the best quality he has, which has been echoed by Charles Lee, is he's just very even keel. He doesn't get too high. If he has a 30-point night, he doesn't get too low. If he doesn't play well, it's kind of, it's like the saying, you never get too high, never get too low. He's very, very good at kind of going one game at a time and moving on to the next performance, regardless of how good or bad the previous performance was. And they've mostly been good.
So what do you think his ceiling is in the league? Where you kind of see his potential? Maybe an unfair question, but just the way he's acclimated to the pro game so quickly, do you think he has the potential to be a franchise player someday? If not, maybe now.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's most definitely a franchise cornerstone. He's going to, at the rate he's going, he's going to absolutely shatter this rookie 3-point record. He's at like 170 or 180. He might be at like 180 now after last night. I think the record is 204 for total threes in a season by a rookie, which he could break. I mean, maybe by the end of the month, which is just crazy. So I think he's most definitely a franchise cornerstone. And, I don't know, franchise player, if any team can have just one guy, but I think he's certainly, he's going to All-Star weekend this week. He's got 3-point contests. He's got Rising Stars. I mean, I certainly think All-Star, All-NBA is very much in the conversation, not necessarily this year, but within the next few years, if he at the rate he's going right now.
I want to ask you about LaMelo Ball. And I know with the Hornets, they've gone through what you mentioned, some trials and tribulations, especially with the injury side of things. But, the Hornets have a lot of momentum. Where do you see kind of his mindset now that the Hornets, everything's finally clicking? So there's a lot of potential. The East, I wouldn't say it's, it resembles what we saw in like the 2000s in terms of how weak it is, but there's a lot of room in terms of potential if the Hornets can, pull together a couple of more winning streaks. You never know what they can do. What is his kind of temperament this season and how he's feeling compared to, previous iterations?
Yeah, well, the biggest thing right now is he's healthy. I mean, he's staying on the court. I mean, that's the biggest thing, and particularly for a player like him with such a unique play style, I think that really helps his teammates, just playing at the speed, the passing, the shot making. That's obviously just a big plus in itself, just being available. And he's done, everything in his power. And he even made some strides, he made some strides last year, kind of staying on the court and taking another jump in that category with some of the ankle stuff. But I think the biggest thing that's helped him, and it's kind of an obvious, but his usage is I want to say last year it was like, at least in the first half of the season, it was up near like 37 or 38% in a game. I mean, it was so high, and it had to be because the Hornets didn't have Brandon Miller. They didn't have Miles Bridges for a stretch. They were missing Mark Williams and Nick Richards, I think, was missing some time. I mean, it was every time I got in Grant Williams, tore his ACL in, I think it was mid-November. And so it felt like every time a guy went down or a guy returned, another guy would go down, and it was just kind of up to LaMelo to do everything. And it just took a big physical toll and even mental toll at times too. And this year that usage rate, I think, is down to like 32 or 31%. And he doesn't feel like he needs to be the guy that shoots every single possession, or because, he's the Hornets are counting on for so much of scoring. He can play off Brandon Miller. He can play off Con Knipple. He can play off, Kobe White when he returns. He can play off Moussa Diabate or Miles or Grant or Josh Green. So I think that's helped him not only kind of, and they've done a really good job of kind of managing his minutes too, and being careful and not, tempted to push it too much. And I think that's helped his defense a lot. And it's taken a lot of pressure off of him in terms of, these possessions. He doesn't feel like he needs to go for the home run hit or the home run pass or the some of the 3-point shots that, he playing much more under control. You see a maturity to his game that was progressing and is, kind of taking a new level this year. And, the in-game awareness and time and score and things like that. I mean, you're seeing some really promising strides. I think a lot of it just circles back to, he just doesn't feel like he has to, hit the home run on every single play sometimes. He's certainly capable of doing it, but if you hit a double and you can set up this guy for an open shot, that guy for an open shot, that's, nothing wrong with that.
Final question for you. We're towards the All-Star break. The second half of the season, either your take on this or what the team is feeling, what do you think they need to improve upon if the Hornets want to, make a deep run into playoffs, you think, to be successful?
Yeah. I think if you look at the last 3 years, just getting to the All-Star break and coming out of the All-Star games, and not that those games last year weren't meaningful necessarily, but you're going to come out of the All-Star break, you're going to be in play-in contention with a chance to potentially host a play-in game, and who knows if stuff goes really good or crazy in a good way, maybe you put yourself in a conversation for a playoff seed. And I think that itself is a accomplishment. You're playing meaningful games, high intensity games, competitive games in late February, March, which is something this team has not been able to do the last few years. So I think a lot of it has just come down to, you got to stay healthy. I think that's the case with everybody right now. Is you're getting to the 50-55 game mark. All-Star break is obviously right around the corner in a few days, and hopefully can kind of use that as a physical and mental reset. But I wish I had a more like specific answer or deep answer, but a lot of it just comes down to health. It comes down to health, chemistry, continuity, nights where you're going to need some minutes from Tijon Salon or Liam McNeely, or you're going to need Sion James to start. Can you get some of those performances if you're missing so-and-so for a few games, or somebody's out for a few games, or somebody's in foul trouble. So the good thing is they do have a pretty it feels like they have a pretty decent home schedule coming up in March. After playing, they do have one more West Coast road trip, I think, in the first week, but after that it feels maybe a little bit more home heavy than road. So I think if the crowd is anything like it was last night against Detroit and kind of having that support, I think they'll be in really good shape. And again, it's just, when you're winning, it's fun, obviously, as we know in sports. And I think that stuff kind of builds on itself. And right now they're seeing sort of the fruits of, hey, if we're doing these things to win, it's working. The buy-in kind of comes a little bit more too. So, and I would add one more thing, and it kind of goes back to a previous question. I think another reason for the Hornets' success is they're closing tight games a little bit better than they were earlier in the season. They started off 0-5 in clutch time, and then I think they went like 4-2, lost 6 in a row, won 4 in a row, and then last night was another clutch time game, but was only for like a little bit. So I think closing out the close games will be obviously a key thing to continue doing down the stretch. Not necessarily, not always going to win every single one of those close games, 50-50 games. If you can win 65% of them to 70%, you put yourself in good shape.
Very true. Sam, thank you very much for spending the time. Truly appreciate it. Can you let our audience know if you're on social media, where they can find your work and any other projects you're working on as well?
Yeah, so all my writings are at hornets.com. You can follow not just my, personal content, but all of our videos at Hornets on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We have a lot of good or a lot of awesome content, especially when you're winning. It's a lot easier to kind of put stuff together. And I'm on Twitter personally at Sam_Perley, Perley, on Twitter, and just a lot of it is just kind of Hornets facts, game updates, reposting articles. It's kind of if you're curious or want to learn more about, one of the NBA's hottest, most exciting teams right now, I'd like to think it's a good resource to go and look and read all about a team that will hopefully be playing a lot of meaningful games in the coming months.
Sam, thank you very much for the time. Enjoy the All-Star break. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Justin. Appreciate you having me.